where we see Schalke 04. No, I'm just kidding. That's Origen. Their shirts are also blue. It's been a wild day, guys. This is Schalke, and they're also in a huddle. That's embarrassing. Anyway, they're playing each other, and to get us back on our feet on the ground, this is a pivotal matchup in the race for the playoffs and for the standings in general. So I do want to pull up the standings for just a second, because I think with all the crazy results we've been having over the last couple of hours, maybe we're losing sight of what is actually going on. So, TLDR, what happened so far today is that Fnatic officially locked playoffs. Now, Schalke is not yet locked, but now that Misfits is out of the race, it is between Schalke 04 and SK Gaming for that last spot.
Yep.
On top of that, for top two, these are the conditions for top two. Fnatic can get top two if Vitality, Splice, and Origen drop one game over the next 2 days. Guess what? Vitality just dropped a game.
Yeah.
Guess what? Fnatic plays Splice tomorrow. Guess what? Origen's playing right now.
Yeah.
So, you know, things are crazy, both for Schalke for getting to playoffs, both for Origen getting to that second place. They have to win. It's just, I love Week 9, man. I love it. It's great.
It's been a really exciting day. Week 9 has resulted in a lot of surprising results. I was not expecting XL to get that win.
Nope.
We've got to focus in on our final game of the day, because that impacts the standings pretty significantly as well. As Origen, they're fighting for that number 2 spot, whereas Schalke are just fighting for a spot in playoffs right now.
Exactly. And Schalke, we know that they haven't had the best time in the last couple of weeks. They dropped a lot of games. However, last week they ended their losing streak by beating Misfits. If we talk about a couple of individuals, W9D1 had a fantastic game. I know what you're going to say. Misfits didn't play a perfect game, but it doesn't matter. You need one of those games to get you back in the race.
I mean, it's the second game in a row that Misfits actually do some random Baron calls, or actually didn't end up that well in both times. In the first time versus Schalke was W9D1 just crushing the Baron of Misfits. And actually, I saw an improvement from part of Schalke, but I don't think Schalke is that strong anymore, as we could see at the start of the split. And I believe Origen are coming up really, really strong.
Can you define what you saw as an improvement from Schalke as of recent?
I mean, they were doing things together. They were coming up people like W9D1 playing way better, as we can see on the screens, compared with the rest of the weeks or the rest of the days he played. And I can see that improvement from that side. Also, I will say that Aberaga didn't play as bad as we saw a lot of times, especially early game. So I can see an improvement there.
A bit of an improvement. However, when I watch Schalke, I'm not that sure that they can win a game versus Origen or any game of that matter, because I've lost faith in them after that losing streak, and especially after they did so well in the beginning of the split. Vedi, do you think they can do it?
I think right now it's definitely an uphill battle. My biggest concern for this team is when I looked at them at the beginning of the split, I felt like that they had everything. They could do whatever you needed them to do. But right now, I feel like that they lack a lot of the coordination in order to team fight successfully, which is one of their biggest strengths, especially when you have a player like Upset on your team. But also, their early game just doesn't seem to be existent at all, right?
But will that be much of an issue versus a team like Origen, who also don't just run over you?
I think right now, what Origen's one of their biggest strengths is that they're just like a well-oiled machine that all just works together extremely well. I think that in terms of their ability to team fight and their mid-game decision-making is very clean and very crisp. And while they don't have the most commanding early game, I think we saw last week that they do have the ability to do it. It's just not their most relied upon strategy.
And Aranea, when you were last with us, Origen wasn't doing too hot, but much like Fnatic, they've absolutely turned it around. Can you tell me what has inspired you about the Origen play in the last couple of weeks?
I mean, I heard from a lot of pro players that Origen is stepping up a lot on the scrims and playing really, really well compared with the rest of the teams. They are one of the biggest challenge right now in Europe and one of the best teams. So I think we can see an improvement, but it's true that when I came here, week 6, they actually lost or dropped the 2 matches they played. So I hope I don't give them bad luck or anything like that.
Well, the positive thing is that they're already in playoffs, so you can't jinx them that they fall out of that. But they're, of course, fighting for second place. Now, they qualified for playoffs already last week. Cold sent out a tweet how great it was for him to get back to the playoffs after a cold year. But what I think is really cool is that there's such a big redemption arc for so many of these players. Of course, Cold, who was struggling really for a while, even though he was rumored to be one of the best players last year on the Unicorns of Love. But this is a guy that wants to win prizes and wants to be on top. Around him, a player like Mythy. They're all finding their second win.
Yeah, I think that when you look at last year for many of these players, it's just a lot of failure. Mythy on TSM, Patrick on H2K, Alfari on Misfits, Cold on Unicorns of Love. The only one really turning something successful into their 2018 was Nukeduck. So when they all came together and joined on Origen, people had mixed expectations around this team. Would it be good? Would it just fail? And it feels like that with the infrastructure that they built in, and with the plan that they've constructed for this split, they've been growing and growing, and people still aren't paying attention to them. They're still this quiet team that just continues to get better and better week on week, and everyone's excited for the Fnatic versus G2 final, but Origen's still sitting here pretty with two arguably easy games and a clear line for that second place.
I agree.
I mean, once you said Nukeduck was the only one who didn't play that bad last split, or who didn't have that bad performance, but he went to the finals of LCS and he didn't go to Worlds.
That's
when
true.
everyone was saying that Schalke was a favorite to get the gauntlet in Europe. And they didn't get it. So actually the 5 members of this team had a rough year last year.
Yeah, absolutely so. And I think maybe that's also helping them right now, that they all are hitting their strides and all are hitting their strides together. I mean, I would say Nukeduck is a star, but nobody jumps out as like the big star on that roster. They are a well-oiled machine. Ara, you wanted to jump in?
No, I just wanted to call them the Avengers because they all want to avenge from the last year, and they're actually the team who actually came up like this. Yeah. And you said there is not a real MVP. Like from the fan votes, a lot of times it's Nukeduck getting the MVP. He's the one running up to get to the first place of MVPs, but it's not natural him being the carry on the team. It's same as Patrick. Patrick has insane numbers, insane KDA, but it's Mythy, the one who, when actually perform good, Patrick can do this job.
Yeah,
so then, sorry.
I think that this is, as we already said, just a well-oiled team that would not, if you replaced any of those players, it's not as good as it currently is. So I think it's really difficult to just pinpoint a certain member that will kind of differentiate them from so many others. And that's why I think it's so difficult for Schalke today, because even if Origen don't have the strongest early game, they just have such a good understanding of how to play from the mid-game onwards. They seem to have a really good read on the meta, and I just feel like overall, they're a very strong team. So I'm struggling to see how Schalke can turn this one around.
Can win this. And I think if we package down the stories of the team, Schalke came in and we didn't really think too much of the roster, honestly, coming in. Yet they went on a tear, but then they fell down. And I'm still waiting for them to really stand back up. So in that regard, a win versus Origen would be very, very good for them, and especially for their playoffs run. But Verius doesn't see it. Aranea, do you see it?
I don't see it. I mean, if they will be playing versus another team, maybe, but I guess if they play versus Fnatic or Origen or G2, they're actually nowadays the 3 toughest opponents here in the LEC.
Just one argument of actually 2. Fnatic pulling out that win that they shouldn't have won versus G2. According to Verius, XL just beat Vitality. I'm just saying.
Upsets happen. Upsets happen.
Yeah.
On paper, they shouldn't win.
Yeah, but whose team is upset on?
And on that bombshell.
It is time to get on the rift and see who will win between Origen and Schalke 04. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I can't argue with pun logic there. Upsets on one team. Shock's, I mean, I feel like Shock's out-analyzed Verius there. We know that that's generally how things work. Memes reign supreme. And now, we're poised for yet another incredibly crucial matchup for the playoff standings. And I'm sincerely glad that this was not the week that we had to say XL versus Rogue, right? Those games are always interesting.
Yes, that's a good one.
Maybe one troll game, and everyone's like, yeah, a troll game. And then after that, it's not quite as interesting. For now, though, it is OG versus Schalke 04. And of course, Schalke fighting to stay in the playoffs, need to stay ahead of SK. And on the opposite side, OG very much in contention for second place. But that road starts with a win here.
Yeah, and with Vitality dropping their game, second place looking so much closer here now for the side of Origen. Now, coming into this draft, I think a sort of hot topic is going to be Odwamne in the top lane, because in their win for Schalke up against Misfits, Odwamne absolutely popped off on the cannon, and in his last 4 games, he's gone for a mage top laner. My eyes are on whether or not he can get a champion like that to have big damage numbers and to try and pull off this upset for Schalke.
For now, however, the focus remains on the bottom side of the map. Draven and the Lucian, I don't think any kind of surprise there. Kalista as well, so it seems like both teams want to limit the options available. Will we see upset signature Ezreal pick taken away here? What are Origen going to go for?
Now, Upset has only played a total of 4 different champions this split, and out of 16 games, 14 of them have been Ezreal or Kai'Sa. So while we are seeing a lot of AD carry bans so far, his core pool is not being touched, and therefore he's still in a pretty good position so far in this draft.
But of course, I almost said the Odoamne for Kennen. The Kennen for Odoamne has now been taken off the board, his strongest, I think, individual pick overall. And I'm curious to see how the top lane matchup will unfold between him and Alphari. Alphari definitely not the player that you look to all the time on this Origen lineup, but has had some pretty incredible individual performances, as we see the Vayne, the final ban.
Yeah, another one of those AD carries here. I have to believe that early on in this draft, we're going to see Upset pick up either the Ezreal or the Kai'Sa. Now, Schalke, what they go for, they open with a very strong all-around flex champion in this Jarvan, and they can put it top lane, they can put it jungle for Memento. I still think this is going to be looking for a jungle champion for Memento, because I think if he is on something that has pretty easy execution that he can look to sort of impact the early game, he's going to be in a good position here to help out Schalke.
And making sure that Memento is comfortable is, I think, very important for the Schalke lineup. He has had some difficult performances in the past few weeks. Definitely feels like he is part of the reason why this team has struggled. So setting him up for success early, or potentially Odoamne with that flex pick, could be important. But Cold, continuing to stray towards this Rek'Sai. He absolutely loves this pick.
It's his 4th game in a row on the champion, and what it brings is just such strong early game skirmishing up against the likes of a Jarvan or any other jungler you can really throw his way. It also gives really nice early ganks if Cold wants to sort of combat and have that level of impact early on in the game.
And now the Ezreal as well, so taking away a comfort pick for Upset. The Kai'Sa, of course, remaining in terms of those picks you talked about earlier. 14 games divided between that Ezreal and that Kai'Sa. See if he wants to pick it up right here, or if they risk letting it be banned away as they enter the second ban phase.
Yeah, I think Kai'Sa Braum could be a pretty solid combination right here if they wanted to sort of steal away the Braum and put that up against the Ezreal, but no, instead it's going to be the Lissandra. So another very safe option for Abbedagge in the mid lane. We know this player sort of struggled at times early on with a lot of deaths and the enemy jungle support roaming his way a whole lot. The Lissandra is a pick that he could use to sort of stay a little bit safer and then also provide very strong CC and lockdown alongside the Jarvan in the jungle.
And I feel like Schalke are looking kind of ease of execution here. We've seen them struggle with some of these more complex comps in the early game, but at their core, back when they were winning a lot of games early in the split, it was a lot of these Lissandra, you found picks like the Camille, now picks like the Jarvan. They're going to make this impact, backed up by what is a scaling hyper carry in the hands of Upset. They have now secured that Kai'Sa for Upset, but the support matchup is going to be a little bit more difficult to lock down as we enter the second ban phase, as Origen have kind of their pick of what to take away. And they will secure the Braum for themselves just to make sure that it can't go into the side of Schalke.
Yeah, I really like the Braum here, and then ban away a champion like the Alistar. Having heavy CC is a very good combination with the Kai'Sa. So an Alistar and even a Galio, I think, would actually be a really solid fit here for Schalke. I'm happy to see Origen ban that champion away just for sort of that all-in combination alongside what is already a heavy, heavy dive comp here that Schalke is bringing to the table.
I mean, so many tools, right? We talk about it with the Lissandra ultimate, but also thinking about the ability for those plasma stacks to be proc to set up for Kai'Sa's dive into the backline if someone finds himself exposed or left vulnerable. But now the Yorick taken away. So while support and engage options are being limited with Origen taking those away from Schalke, these strong solo laners are being taken away from Origen themselves, not letting them get value out of that red side last pick.
Exactly, and for Origen, sort of looking now at what they need to fill out their composition, I think they actually need something with reliable engage from the top lane, because when you have a Rek'Sai plus a Braum, that's not a lot of great tools to sort of start off a fight and look for an engagement. So putting Alphari on something that can sort of get things going himself, provide that reliable CC, would sort of round out this Origen composition, because right now that's something they definitely lack.
And the Renekton now taken away as well. Of course, Sakabo, very strong individual performance despite the team's loss on the champion. And now, Akali, of course, still up and available if they do want to go for it here. I'm curious to see Akali priority. We did see Jizuke have an okay result, but it was a struggle very much so early on in the game.
And we know that Akali is not necessarily favored in the matchup up against Lissandra. That's one of the bans you will see a whole lot. Hello.
Now that, an interesting option, most certainly not a champion that we see all too frequently, but could, in theory, match the Lissandra if they want to put it up mid lane.
I mean, it could go mid lane. It could also go top lane, because I remember Alfari actually playing a whole lot of Swain back when he was popular, you know, beginning of 2018.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, spring, summer split, both those times he was a relatively popular pick, and it's because he provides a whole lot of things for the team. First of all, it's long-range, non-committal CC, so it sort of gives Origen some options to find fights and find picks on individual members. And then you're also just a high damage, high sustain sort of quasi-tank in these fights where if you can survive for a long time, you do a whole lot of damage.
And it provides a similar value to the Vladimir that Origen themselves banned away, but now, Ender, we see the rest of the team comp revealed. It will be the Elise into the jungle, the Jarvan now given to Ottawamne on the top side of the map. But here's where we could see a flex. Nukeduck, of course, notorious for his incredibly deep champion pool. If we did want to see a Swain mid, it could go here, depending on how Origen is feeling.
Now, honestly, I think it was kind of a mistake here from Origen to ban the Vladimir instead of the All-Star. I think it was pretty clear what Schalke were looking for in the bottom lane for that combination with the Kai'Sa plus All-Star. And it also means that Schalke are going to be putting the Jarvan in the top side. So that's a very strong early game 2 versus 2, where Memento on this Elise can play around the Jarvan and help him build up an advantage, because the lane against Poppy is one that Jarvan should win early on.
Could be a comfortable matchup, but now we're at the point where the Swain is going to set to go mid lane into the hands of Nukeduck. And this one's difficult because while Swain himself is kind of strong, can be this very aggressive lane presence, he doesn't have the luxury of the get in, get out card that is the frozen path or the glacial path for the Lissandra. So I do wonder if he's going to find himself vulnerable to some of these very aggressive early Elise ganks. And you can see right now in the Summoner choice, that's a TP, that's not a cleanse.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at, is because usually when you see a Lissandra, you take cleanse. And when you see an Elise, you really take cleanse here for Nukeduck. So he still has some time to switch over if he does want to. But honestly, looking at these compositions, especially if you look top side of the map in the early game, I think Schalke have a lot of really good tools here for Memento to work with and to try to get an early lead.
And a lot of comfort, of course, on the side of Schalke as well. Abedage's Lissandra was the pick that made us think that, hey, this guy could be rookie of the split. You look at some of his early games, fantastic team fight positioning, excellent engages to get the team kicked off, and of course, upset on a comfort pick as well. And if anyone could carry this game, it would be the hyper scaling carry on the side of Schalke No Fear. But on the opposite side, Swain in the mid lane, something new, which I'm excited to see. Nukeduck, of course, once again, notoriously large champion pool. Not necessarily always considered an innovator, but always has something special to play.
Yeah, I mean, the Swain's a pick we haven't seen in a whole while here in the LEC. I think that Nukeduck is liking his odds here on the Swain as Origen. Again, this match is so pivotal for them. They need to keep winning these as they get closer and closer towards that second place seed.
All too crucial, ladies and gentlemen, as we do get into game now. All right, good audience. You're ready? You're feeling alive? Game 5. Once again, Andrew, you said the stakes. I'll say them one more time for the people at home. Schalke fighting to get into playoffs, battling neck and neck with SK as 5 of 6 spots have been locked, and OG in a very tight race for second place. And of course, if you're a Fnatic fan, you are praying for an OG loss here, because what may have started as a pipe dream 3 weeks into the split is now Fnatic very much contesting for that second place. So a win here for OG is critical for their success in the playoffs.
And a win for Schalke, just important for staying in the playoff picture altogether. Again, they are tied in wins currently with SK Gaming. A win here would put them at 9 wins and in a very good position to try and get right on into playoffs and have a good performance there. And honestly, coming out of the draft phase, I think that Schalke got a lot of the things that they want to, right? It's upset on his signature Kai'Sa in the bottom lane with a good support for Ignar to try and make plays. And the top side of the map we already sort of touched on has given Schalke many, many tools to work with here in the early game.
And now I'm curious, Ender, to see how the execution comes through. Memento on this Elise. Big burden to get a lot done in the early game when an Elise does not have a lead early on. It's rare that you see this champion come back in games. So pressure on Memento to perform early on here and set some expectations, of course, for both these teams. And we have to remember the last time these two teams played, it was very slow, it was very controlled in the early game. It was 1 or 2 explosive plays with Nukeduck on the Yasuo. In fact, Patrick on the Kalista, you may remember the triple kill. It was 1 or 2 explosive moments that turned the game in favor of OG, kind of as expected. But that was also the start of the massive decline of Schalke. So you have to wonder, is that on the players' minds? Can they find a bit of revenge here for the win that ultimately started their losing streak?
Definitely going to be something sitting with these players, as it was just last week up against Misfits that Schalke were able to get their first win in a long, long time. And, you know, maybe that's what they need to sort of get back on the right, you know, swing of things and get going once more. But I don't know, it's a stiff competition here coming into the last week of play up against Origen.
Absolutely the case. Of course, eyes have to be on the jungler right now in the early game. The Elise and the Rek'Sai kind of the catalyst for action. But the mid lane, not a matchup that we always see, and for now, it looks like Nukeduck and Abadage trading stacks of that Corrupting Potion. Cold maybe looking to find a play here. Poppy, of course, can. Only level 2, though. Doesn't look like she can deny the Flag and Drag. That is the knock-up. Now knocked back into the wall. One trying to get out. First blood dropping for Cold. Well played by the OG top side.
Yeah, really nicely done there from Cold. And Odwamne, he holds onto his flash, knowing that if he flashes, Cold can immediately follow and get the punish kill right there. So he holds onto the Summoner spell, but first blood going into the hands of Cold is going to set him up for a very successful early game. I really like the pathing out of Cold because he sort of hid where he started. Close call right there, by starting actually on the Wolf Camp solo. He went Wolves into Red into Krugs, which gave him the fastest level 3 clear possible here on the Rek'Sai, and that made for really awkward timing where Odwamne just honestly wasn't expecting a Rek'Sai to be able to be level 3 and to be able to find him at that opportunity.
And when you look at this draft, you do not expect top lane to be a window where you can play through in the early game, but now with a little bit of a lead onto a Poppy, with a lead onto this Rek'Sai, it very much has become one. And if you get behind in this matchup as a Jarvan, the fact that you can't actually Flag and Drag against a Poppy is brutal because you can't go in, and you definitely cannot go out if Rek'Sai shows up.
Yeah, Odwamne is also just going to sort of feel the pain as we get later and later into this lane matchup, because if you look for the Flag and Drag, well, Poppy can just press the W and sort of deny you that ability, take a solid trade back in towards your face, and especially now that Alfari's completed the Balmy Cinder, it becomes a lot easier to sort of clear away these waves and to go for extended trades where you can just have that, you know, immolate passive constantly going and firing off against Odwamne.
Once again, just a fantastic start for OG. Of course, not the biggest gold lead, but turning around some matchups we may have expected to be Schalke favored. It's of course not the end of the day. Memento with a 2-camp lead is using the sweeper now. Will spot out this ward and at least clear out a little bit of vision, but will not be able to pull off a successful gank. Would have to commit a little bit more time if you wanted to play for it.
And it will force Patrick to play a little bit more respectfully, and actually right now Origen's bottom lane has an advantage when it comes to ranged minions, as of course, right as I say that, Upset's going to clear them away. So the pressure from Memento not going to mean a whole lot other than OG give a little bit more respect here for this 2v2. But I would like to sort of touch on this mid lane a little bit, because Nukeduck is piloting the Swain. It's not a champion you expect to see, but I actually really like it here up against the Lissandra, because one of Swain's biggest weaknesses is that he's actually relatively low range. You know, when you're spamming the Q, it doesn't give you a whole lot of reach in terms of minion cleared to get the push advantage or even trading back, but against the Lissandra, she's also very low range, so it does give Nukeduck some room to sort of clear away the waves and trade up against this relatively safe mid lane pick.
And of course, the threatening burst that we usually see from Lissandra could be heavily mitigated if he decides to go for a more defensive build like the Rod of Ages early on. Still though, Ender, no cleanse in this mid lane. And now with level 6 coming in for Abadage, I think we just have to wonder, when is Elise going to show her face in this mid lane? But with Swain getting level 6 as well, it only gets harder.
It gets harder, and Nukeduck is also going to be running the Unsealed Spellbook, so while he just used his teleport to get back into lane, it now gives him the opportunity, hey, switch over towards something like the Cleanse if you think you're going to be ganked, and that will give him a little bit more protection. It'll sort of bail him out of a potentially rough situation, because I agree with you. If he doesn't have the Cleanse, I think that Memento absolutely should be looking for a gank path around this middle lane, and right now, that would be coming from the top side, because OG actually put down some really solid control wards to give Nukeduck cover underneath this middle lane.
Abadage still could look for a roam play down to the bottom side, but as you mentioned, difficult now that all that vision is down there, and top side as well just doesn't feel super viable. Poppy, of course, with so many different ways to disengage a fight. Good news is Odwamne, despite losing out on that initial play, is still able to match Poppy in terms of relative pressure, although now forced to back off as he's burned most of his mana pool.
I think another interesting thing here is we've actually seen a whole lot more junglers going for the chilling smite instead of the challenging smite, because for a long time it was challenging or nothing, basically, where the added dueling power that the item gave you was just way too much for anyone to deal with. You had to take that option, otherwise you lost every duel that the enemy jungler showed up to. But after some nerfs actually to that item, and the fact that we're seeing slower games, I think, it means that Chilling Smite gives you more value because the added utility of having Blue Smite when you come in for a gank is going to mean that it's just that much likelier you're able to lock down and secure a kill, whereas the dueling aspect of Red Smite isn't as valued anymore.
And of course, for a champion like Rek'Sai who needs to get into melee range to find that knock-up, and for Elise who needs to land those critical skill shots, the slow is very valuable. That's the knock-up. Minty is going to get stunned up here, but now Ignar may have strayed too far. The TP coming in. Cold now trying to back it out. Afari finds back into the wall. Memento just deleted. Ignar next on the menu. Just going to walk him down and get Patrick the kill as well. OG now dominating this early game.
Really nice shot calling there from OG. They get the teleport flank in there from Alphari after Ignar overcommits with the headbutt pull combo. And then they make the call, let's just actually stick on towards Memento, get that kill first, because they knew Ignar was in so deep that he would not be able to escape. So it's a very nice setup and a very nice cash in here for OG, who now sit 3-0 in the kills.
Grabbing the Cloud Drake as well. Of course, 2 plates do go over to Odoamne on the top side. It will balance out some of the gold that Poppy was able to get with that bottom side play. But evening out after Poppy's made such a big impact on the map does not feel great.
Now watch this one more time, because it starts out with a nice play here from Schalke, but cold red Memento like a book. And then this wall slam here from Alphari leaves absolutely zero room for Memento. He can't even use his flash to escape right there. And OG can donate the second kill over to Patrick to sort of snowball this Ezreal.
In the mid lane, what we thought once was an avenue is only going to get harder as the Catalyst is, of course, completed. Swaying closer and closer to that Rod of Ages and able to just indefinitely sustain this push, matching what the Lost Chapter has given to the side of Abadage. Cold's going to donate this blue buff over to God. Lysandra just going to struggle so much to get this push through, and you're in a difficult position because the Elise very much behind overall. Would like to have that gold and experience himself. And Nukeduck, maybe now fishing for a greater play. He's going to get the pullback just in time to stop the claw from being reactivated now. Activates the ult and is just going to walk Abadage down. The flash forward is going to be brought back. Oh, Abadage. Here comes the Demon Flare. Push it again. That's the kill.
Poor Abadage in the mid lane tower. The whole play starts off with him tanking one shot from that, and then Nukeduck understands exactly what he can do on this Swain, and Abadage doesn't flash the initial route right there, so really nice punish from Nukeduck, who now sets up OG to just completely run away with this game.
And now, of course, the Summoner Spellbook has the cleanse as well. So even if you wanted to go mid lane, it only gets harder. Has the free boots.
And a 20 CS lead on top of that.
And he's backing now, and I feel like he's going to complete the full Roa.
Yeah, he's sitting on 2.3K.
Yes. Ooh. And so much we thought would be decided with some, maybe like last time, with some explosive mid-game calls, but the early game from OG has been so incredibly dominant, Ender.
Yeah, I mean, it was just really, really crisp all around, starting with Cold's clever early pathing to get the first blood topside. Then, again, it's Cold who counter-ganks in the bottom lane to get 2 more quick kills. And then Nukeduck's like, hey, wait a second, guys. You're getting a lot of kills without me. I definitely want to participate as well, so I'm going to solo kill the rookie mid laner, and he adds 1 more rookie head to his kill list.
Oh, God. The man. Unstoppable against these rookies. Part of his legacy.
I feel like, you know, Nukeduck is sort of like that guy that goes and hunts game, right? You know, and he's sitting in his room with a bunch of leather chairs, and he's got, you know, the head of Abadage and Nemesis and all these players sitting around his room.
I get what you're going for, but that's a little dark, Ender. I'm not.
He actually just slaughters every rookie he plays against.
It's true. It's brutal to play against Nukeduck, no doubt. And he has these niche counter picks where you go, hey, Lysandra, that's my comfort pick. He's got, oh, I've got something in the book for that one. And now Alphari now has to run. Abadage going to do what he can? Is he going to try to solo clear that one? No, just spotted Cold out, and Cold, of course, going to get right out with the tunnel. Now Odoamne can just walk down, and they can try to secure this Memento here as well. So Rift Herald at least will go over to the side of Schalke. Would start to even up some of this 2.5k gold deficit as we are 11 minutes into the game. But first items are now getting completed on the side of OG Enter. Not so much on the side of Schalke, which is a bit of a concern, but the Warrior, a massive damage spike. And now additionally the Rod of Ages is the Herald for someone top.
This is exactly what I wanted to see from Memento. Go for a plate gank with the Herald on the top side of the map. They can easily knock out this turret. What I mean by plate gank is that you're not actually ganking to get a kill. You're ganking to get that money off of the tower and off of the turret, but you gotta go for that before the 14-minute mark, and the plating does fall. So he will try to keep Odoamne ahead in gold in terms of the top side of the map and keep the team overall at least close here to the OG squad that's doing a really good job of snowballing the early game.
And of course, while Alphari does have the tools to disrupt the Jarvan, remember the Jarvan Cataclysm is unstoppable during the animation, so at least can't shut down the Jarvan completely in the fights to come, but Diving into a Swain, always difficult. Of course, this is much weaker than the last time we saw Swain be really popular and competitive. Demon Flare definitely had the ratio kicked down a few times in the nerfs, but incredibly powerful, especially with a lead, and the CS just continues to stack up in the favor of Nukeduck. Doesn't even need a flash in the mid lane, has the heal, has the cleanse.
He just switches over all the summoner spells he actually used already with that unsealed spellbook. But I do think it is sort of an interesting composition here from OG, because you look at the tools that they have, and again, one of the weaknesses of this comp is that you don't have a lot of ability to force hard engagement. So when you get a lead like this, oftentimes when you're playing a comp similar to this, the gold sort of stagnates. You know, you get this early advantage because the Rex size popping off, and then it doesn't really go that much further, and you have to wait till objectives spawn before you really get anything done. So we have to watch OG and how they can sort of kite back in these fights and stay alive.
Nukeduck is going to cleanse up, but oh, that is going to be the stopwatch use. He's healing up as much as he possibly can. Needs to use a little bit more. He's still alive. Nukeduck living. The Cataclysm comes out. Are they going to be able to kill him? They do get the shutdown. Mithy now in trouble. Memento going to fall with the Cocoon. That should be 2. No, Mithy makes it to safety. He's cold. Sniped on the backside. Patrick finds a way to get the kill for his team, and now Ignar has to run for his life. The double knockup. Stepping away as Upset comes back, looking to turn the play back, but he's knocked out immediately. And Cold goes under, comes back up, but still goes down in the end. Ottawamne debating whether or not to extend the play. Upset is here as well, but both sides are going to back off.
It was a good start there from Schalke, but they overcommit to try to get the kill there on towards Mithy, and OG are able to punish and actually come out on top in that trade. 3 kills for 2, as well as some pressure on that bottom lane turret. And it was actually Patrick with the True Shot Barrage sniping off a member of Schalke there to really hammer home that OG are still in control.
Difficult when you're that Elise getting sniped off. Tough spot to be in. Of course, Schalke is still showing signs of life, though. That is going to be important. Ottawamne able to show up just in time to get something done, but we look at this play and you can see just how long it takes to kill the Swain. Now the good news is they get enough burst that it's not impossible. It was very close to being.
Well, here's the thing. It's actually Ignar and Memento working really well together to find a gank timing in the mid lane, and Nukeduck gets a little overconfident because Mithy is here, and it starts off, it's great. They got the kill onto Nukeduck, but then Memento says, I'm going to flash forward, we're going to die for Mithy. Avidagi takes 2 tower shots, Memento gets slammed and killed. That's 2 quick kills here for OG, and then they trade for Ignar underneath the tower. It's almost a 3-for-1 if Cold had been able to survive there with the extra healing from Triumph.
Corbin's a difficult spot for Alfari. Could go into the tower to try to tank for Cold, but then would probably die in the process. Avidagi is able to make it out. The pullback from Nukeduck will not stop the reactivation, and Ottawamne at least has a Tiamat, is able to keep this pressure up on the top side. Nukeduck now looking to find the pick, pulling Avidagi back. He's going to have to self-ult here in a second. Nope, does not have the opportunity. It's just going to back off. Will stay alive, but Memento now in trouble. What goes up must come down. He's going to walk right into that team, and he's just going to get deleted instantly. Upset potentially next. Nukeduck threatening on the front line. Demon Flare is going to get proc, but Avidagi immediately has to use the self-ult. Ulti comes out, flash to safety, following his own claw. OG taking complete control of the mid lane, and Alfari's looking for the solo kill, chasing down Ottawamne. He needs to make his way out of there. There's the buckler. Captain America not going to come through in the end. Odo making it out to safety.
Odo gets out just barely right there, and it's so sad here to see Schalke because they keep trying to make these plays, and they're grouping up and they're forcing, and it looks good, but they don't know where Origen are, and Origen continue to read them so well. It's always Cold and Mithy waiting right behind, looking for the punish. Now they're going to get their second Cloud Drake of the game, so they can continue to find these plays and find the overextensions here from Schalke.
And when we look back at this play, you can just see the setup so clean, burning through a lot here. And Avidagi, unfortunately, does have the patience to hold on the ult, but the second he's so low, he really can't turn this fight back.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard, too, for Schalke just to find a priority target that they can burst through, because the Ezreal is so safe. The Swain, too, has so much sustain when he pops the Demon Flare as well. So when they look for these engagements, unless they know absolutely that reinforcements from OG cannot come, they're not going to be able to get the kills quickly enough in order to punish any of those OG members overextending.
And what's brutal is Swain is obviously doing very well in his individual lane matchup, but I've now seen Patrick take 2 towers solo, going bot lane, getting that tower, going mid lane, getting that tower, and the Ezreal on top of the Kleptomancy is just snowballing more and more gold and getting closer and closer to that 2-item threshold where we know Ezreal is so terrifying.
That's a 2.4k lead there for Patrick.
Yeah.
That's like a Zeal item. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. I mean, I don't know if he got all 5 plates on the bottom side. I'd have to watch the replay and check, but I've now seen him take 2 towers solo, huge amount of gold in his pocket. And while Swain is just continuing to be this beefy frontliner, I feel like Patrick might go unnoticed in the next fight, and that would be a insanely large mistake from
I mean,
Schalke.
with the damage that Patrick is going to be doing, it's going to be hard not to notice him because he also went for the Trinity Force as well. So Patrick is feeling pretty good in this game. He knows it's really hard for the Schalke squad to dive onto him, so he doesn't need the extra survivability of an Iceborne Gauntlet. He just wants to do the deeps, and as they take another turn in the top side, he's absolutely going to be doing that.
And honestly, when you have a lead with this kind of champions, or these kind of champions, it just feels so easy to keep pressing it forward. Poppy could stop any engage from coming in. Swain makes it incredibly difficult to get any plays laid down. And on top of that, Kai'Sa really can't do anything in the face of a Braum at this stage of the game, especially one with Exhaust and Ignite, courtesy of the Spellbook. Things are difficult for Schalke, but they did find a window before. They found that window in the mid lane. They found an opportunity to get some kills, and maybe they can find one again.
We're going to be looking for that, looking to see how Ignar and Memento can work together. Because if you think back to when Schalke was successful at the start of the split, it was Ignar and Memento functioning so well as a duo. And honestly, we haven't seen that in so long. I think both Memento and Ignar have had troubles of their own, you know, sort of personally in these games. And it's meant that the duo hasn't been able to come together and to find the plays that they had been able to in the first few weeks of play. So, I mean, if they're going to get anything done in this game, I think it has to be off the back of an Alistar or an Elise or even a Jarvan if they want to loop Odwamne into the picture as well. They have to find isolated members of OG that they can punish.
And remember that this is an incredibly crucial game for Schalke, because once again, we look at the standings, this team has not locked in their spot yet. SK Gaming is hot on their heels. A loss here would tie these two teams up. Of course, the head-to-head is 1-1, so they would force a tiebreaker. But definitely a difficult spot to be, because OG, they get to play a happy battle. They're in playoffs. They get to fight for second. That's, of course, important, but if you lose, you're still in playoffs. You still get to play those best-of-5s. You have a chance to make it to the top, but Schalke losing out here could mean they don't even get that chance. They don't get the opportunity to show what they've got in a larger format.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the players on this team, and you expect to be in the playoff picture. The fact that Schalke are just sort of trying to hold on at the moment is a big disappointment for them. If they make it into playoffs, then they have the opportunity to try and do things around. But first, Origen is going to be standing in their way, and with a 6,000 gold lead at the moment, with a Baron buff spawning onto the Rift as well, things are looking more and more difficult here for Schalke as they hope they can set up the perfect team fight around Upset.
And we talked about the lack of kind of reliable, consistent engage options on the side of OG. Now that problem is solved if you go to Baron, if you set it up, and the enemy team has to come to you. So it's an incredibly difficult spot for Schalke to find themselves in. Walking into a Swain and a Poppy just does not feel good ever.
And I mean, just walking into darkness too, right? Because Schalke have had so little control, especially over the top side of the map. They have 0 wards inside of their own jungle, let alone inside of the river surrounding that Baron as well. So it's a nightmare for Schalke to try and walk in and ever procure some vision.
Now, good news. Upsets Cole. 23 creeps away.
Oh, we're getting there.
There's an option. It can happen. A small gold spike gets him closer to 2 items. 2 items for Kai'Sa, obviously very strong. Closer and closer to the double evolve there, but maybe we'll let him output more damage than Ezreal in a team fight, as Ezreal is now stacking a 2nd tier. Good old Patrick. Was not worried, does not need the Blade of the Rune King, feels quite comfortable, so we'll go for the 2nd tier, of course. Incredible mixed damage scaling as we get later in the game, and already at that 2 item threshold that does make Ezreal so incredibly terrifying.
Now, interestingly, on the Kai'Sa, usually we see them go for a pickaxe earlier on to try and get that 2nd Q evolve, but because Upset actually has the Dorans as well as the Cole in the inventory, he's sitting at 109 bonus attack damage with the Infinity Edge and, you know, adaptive stats from your runes as well. So Upset does have that Q evolve, which means he's going to be getting 10 missiles on every Q, which, I mean, to be fair, he's still down in this game, but it is important to call out that he does now, you know, start to hit some of those evolve thresholds.
And there's a lot of hidden power in Kai'Sa's kit, right? And we see it so often with these champions who use Rageblade really well, and Kai'Sa as well with the different ability evolves. I feel like it's always something you have to call out just because item-wise always feels like the easy indicator, although Alfari. Oh, now Cataclysm, we're going to extend this play, all right. Oh, flash away, now it's just a 1v1. Alfari's just going to use it as a Upset now coming in. Needs to get some CC down if he wants Upset to use his ultimate, and they are just going to use that TP for nothing in the end, as OG are going to move down the mid lane. Memento now in trouble. That's the Ezreal burst coming through. Spider goes down, gets immediately knocked up, and dies. OG now in complete control. They're just going to run down the mid lane, and you have to wonder what happened in that play from Schalke.
Schalke really tried to force in the bottom lane, and OG were able to kite back with a good flash from Alfari, and now they're going to get themselves an inhibitor on top of it just at 22 minutes into the game. I mean, they can even walk back towards the Baron because Memento is still going to be dead for 15 more seconds.
And this is the style we expect from OG. It's very clean, it is very controlled. At the end of the day, it just feels like Schalke too far behind to try and force that play. W9D1 recommitting with the Cataclysm. You have to wonder if that was the right call. And OG grabbing all these towers, now set up to take a Baron with those supers barreling down the mid lane. It should be an easy take, but it could be the last opportunity for Schalke to contest.
Yeah, I mean, Schalke, they sort of played their hand in the bottom lane, and then they were looking for that pickoff. W9D1 said, oh, I have to go in now with the ultimate. But the fact of the matter is, you're against a Poppy. She can sort of knock your damage out of the fight. That's what happened towards Abadage. So he's just so tanky at this point in the game that it's not possible to single out Alfari in the side lane. And because of it, Schalke lose 3 turrets, I believe, mid lane as well as top lane, including the inhibitor on top of that as well. So it becomes even more difficult. Luckily for them, they finally got some vision around this Baron, but OG are now going to come in with the sweepers and try to deny that again.
And they have Triple Cloud, which means, yes, they could have Triple Mountain and could have killed a Baron already. I agree. But Triple Cloud at this point means that if you are ever out of position on this team that is very far behind, you die.
Yeah, I mean, you go
Instantly.
real fast. And I think people actually, you know, Cloud gets a really bad rap, but when you have 3 of them, even if you have 1 of them, right, you still keep a third of that movement speed in combat. So not only does it mean you just get everywhere you need to be on the map faster, but you're also going to have some more, you know, maneuverability in these team fights as well. So you get a lot of bang for your buck out of that one. And now all we have to do is wait for Origen to sort of go through the methodical play. They set up the Baron. That's exactly how you want to do it. Use all your sweepers inside of the river, and then wait for Schalke to come on face checking.
And once again, this is the kind of the clean game we've been, or have come to expect from OG now. Earlier in the season, the games were a little bit messier. They had a lot of those individual deaths early on, but now that they've cleaned up a lot of those issues, they have been just an incredibly clean team overall. Why a lot of people hold them up with the G2s and the Fanatics of the league to really contest for that top spot in the LEC. And you're right. For Schalke, they're waiting. They're looking for that opportunity. For OG, they're taking their time. They're following the game plan. They know what the rule book is for Clean League of Legends. Follow it to a T as they get their mid priority. They set up their Baron vision, and then they can look to either fight or bait that Baron pit.
Yeah, the only thing OG are really waiting on is sweeper timers and control wards. In the inventories, Patrick, he's going to be just fine.
Dash over still has flash available as well. Of course, no TP for the Ezreal, however, but Cold waiting on the bottom side.
He's on a ward.
Right on top of a ward. Mithy is just going to walk back. He knows his team is there to protect him. They have 4 members strong on the bottom side. Ulti goes over the wall. Big chunk of health out of Ignore and Upset. Abadage looking to find him in the pinch. Now going to find the engage immediately. Mithy taken down. That's not a good opportunity to start it off. Ignore now engaging on Cold. The flash out to safety. The retreat. Swain nowhere nearby. They can't keep the fight going. And OG giving up that kill.
Solid punish there from Schalke. I mean, they've been looking for this pick for so long, right? Where they just bring everyone to the same area and force that engagement. Now, they end up trading some flashes on junglers, so it's not even like Schalke actually had to use too much right there. The ultimates will come back relatively soon, and they're going to appreciate some of, you know, the gold they get off of that kill and some of the respite they get just by, you know, having Origen with only 4 members on the map instead of 5.
And of course, at this point with the member down, it would be very difficult for OG to force. It would be a bold play and definitely not one that would be easy to pull off, so not something we expect from OG, knowing that they can make the 80% plays and not the 50-50s. And of course, Ezreal, got to point him out again. Swain, of course, 2 items. We'll check in on the rest of that before we go back to Ezreal. You can see as well the Sterix gauge, so Rek'Sai going to be very difficult to kill. But we are getting to that 2-item, 3-item point on the opposite side as well. Abadage finally finishing the Morellos, and 2.5 items in the pocket of the Kai'Sa. It's going to be good news.
Yeah, and as we flip to the next page in textbook League of Legends with Origen, Mountain Drake is going to be spawning in 5 seconds. They've already set up with 3 members around the pit, so going to be an easy pickup there for Origen as they take that objective that's going to make it so much easier to secure the Baron. And then I have a feeling they're going to head on up to the top side of the map to secure that Baron.
We'll see. I feel like it might happen, Ender. I don't know. I'm not convinced yet. But Nuke Duck will start to clear out the vision, so it does look quite likely. Now, Abadage in a difficult spot. The team needs to push for a little bit more vision. They have the wards in their inventory necessary to do so. You can see 3 control wards on the side of Schalke, but have to be careful. Schalke now pushing for that mid priority. Will try to clear some of the vision back from the side of OG. They have to be careful because if OG come to contest, they should win the fight given just the raw stat advantage.
At this point, I feel like OG are just waiting for Patrick to finish stacking that Archangel. He's at about 550 right now on the Ezreal, and you know, going to be stacking that up fast, spamming out all of his spells ASAP, and then moving on into the Schalke jungle.
And of course, reminder that once it's fully stacked, it goes from converting 1% of your mana into AP into 3% of your mana, which is, you know, tripling the value of that passive, which is huge.
Yeah, and it also gives you a big old shield based on how much mana you have, and when you have a Mirror Mana and the Archangels and a Trinity Force, that's a lot of mana.
Thank you, Andrew.
That is my analysis of that build.
High quality.
It's lots of mana.
There you go. Reading the items. You never know. Some people don't. Of course, 3 items for the Kai'Sa. Not the biggest breakpoint for Kai'Sa overall, but the 4-item point usually the one that people reference more, but not going up against a normal crit AD carry. Now, people trying to find the fight. Cold off to the flank. Nuketown could be right in the middle of everything to knock up on a Memento. If they take out the jungler, it should set them up for success. Abadage on the backside. They're peeling him back. Mythy going to miss the engage as well. Abadage retreating. Nuketown and the rest of OG have burned so much. They're not able to get a kill, but they are now set up to go right to that Baron.
Yeah, OG really tried to force the fight right there, but you can see sort of the weakness of this composition. Yet, they do chunk out Memento, so they go straight back over towards this Baron. They're going to be starting it up, though, and they're missing an ultimate on Alfari, ultimate on towards Mythy. Schalke, this is their best chance possible to punish OG.
TP up from Upset. They're not sure if it's happening. Odoamne needs to be careful. They're going to try to deny the entrance. Is he going to be able to even use the ultimate? No, just locked down completely.
It's a huge miscommunication from Schalke. They had a blue trinket. They used it after Odoamne had already been picked off, so they lose their frontliner. Now they have to sort of walk in 4v5. This is not something
you go in and lose this fight. The game is over. Schalke Memento stepping forward, hoping to steal it, but I don't think it's going to happen. Now on the retreat, Abadage trying to pull it back with the Baron being burned down. They cannot contest this one. Memento has to walk away empty-handed, and OG about a 10k gold lead in their back pocket now on top of the Baron buff.
Oh man, you can see exactly how OG want to play around this objective. They started up, realized, no, we're not going to risk losing it. We turn, we go immediately over towards Odoamne, and because the blue trinket didn't come in before he face-checked into the 5 members of OG, he fell down, and Schalke really had no chance of contesting.
And just a difficult spot to be in when you're on the back foot like that. You can't afford to make mistakes like, you know, mistiming the blue trinket, not knowing that was there, stepping too far forward, and it's always terrifying walking to that pit because they're either in the pit taking Baron and you know you have to go, or they're waiting in that bush, waiting because they know that you have to go as well. And OG play the better end of those mind games.
I mean, honestly, Schalke have a lot of tools to what?
One more auto. I think he's going to go back for it. Ulti.
Now you ulti. And now you Q when he comes down.
W. I think they'll be able to get it. They're going to be able to kill Odoamne too if they're not careful. The Q forward trying to now make his way out. Of course, Upset now trying to find the fight. Immediately going to go in. Nuketown now trying to peel off. Of course, a lot of frontline damage. Mythy trying to get the fight started. That's the double man knockup. Now pulls back. Cold can follow it up. Nuketown flashing forward. That's Death's Hand. Another one going to go down. Double for Nuketown. A third coming in for Patrick. Smiles on the faces of the OG coaching staff as they barrel through this base.
Origen wiped the fight with 30+ seconds on every single member of Schalke. They're going to be looking to end the game right here. Draco, second place, looking so much closer.
Closer and closer with every win. Christie, Odoamne retreats back to the fountain. He knows this one is over. Alfari throwing down some wards just to let him know. Going to knock him right back into his own fountain. They're taking their time. They're burning their Zonias. They're pushing every active they got, celebrating this win. OG, a confident and clean game.
Kill the Nexus
and get one step closer to second place.
Nailed it.
At the end of the day, it was clean, it was controlled, it was exactly what we expected from Origen, and while there were moments of life from the side of Schalke, it just looks like OG were in control from minute 1.
I mean, from minute 1, right, Cold's early game pathing, just knowing exactly where Memento was going to be, knowing where Schalke wanted to force a play, and he was able to be there, and they were able to punish this Schalke squad. It felt like that continued the entire game. Well, Schalke, they saw opportunities, they wanted to make these plays, but every time they tried to execute on it, OG were always ready to punish them.
Absolutely, and for Schalke, it's a terrifying spot to be in. The 1-1 head-to-head record with SK means that you lose tomorrow, SK lose, you're a tiebreaker. You know, on the opposite side, of course, you win, they lose, you're in. But if they win and you lose tomorrow, you're done, you're out, and that's it. And for a team that started so incredibly strong. Because you got to remember, if we go back to like week 4, week 3, we're like, this is the team that's going to contest G2.
Yeah, they were like 7-1.
Yeah, this is the team that's going to rise up. It's them or Vitality. Someone's going to stick it to G2, and it's going to be one of these teams. Yeah, that story has changed in the recent weeks, Henry.
It really has. Now going into the last day of regular season play and tied with SK for 6th place. This team needs wins. They need wins now, and then they can try to, fix the pieces of the puzzle and try to get everything back in order here for playoffs, because this team is just hanging on by a thread, and they are very close to falling out.
Brutal situation to find yourself in after what was just once again a fantastic start to the split. But for OG, good signs, smiles on their faces, closer and closer to finding that 2nd place. Just a reminder, 2nd and 3rd, incredibly valuable in our playoffs format. 3rd lets you choose between 5th and 6th for who you want to face, which the most important part of that is not Fnatic. Don't want to face, you get 3rd, you're guaranteed not to play Fnatic right now. And 2nd, getting that bye, immediately facing G2, but with the luxury of losing a best of 5 if you can't win the day, and coming back in Rotterdam to try to find a path to the playoff or the finals.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely huge, right? Making that top 2 and having that guarantee, having that ability to fall down and still pick yourself right back up. The new playoff format, I think, has sort of opened a lot of eyes here, because now regular season seeding means so much more. And going into the last day of play here, we have a fight for 6th place and we have a fight for 2nd place, and both of them are absolutely massive.
Definitely true. And as far as replays go, we have a fight that ended the game in the end. We'll take a look at it one more time. Ender, let's talk about this one.
This is Patrick doing everything he can to try and kill Memento. Memento does a really nice job of trying to avoid it, but unfortunately, Patrick says, nah, I'm going to flash in, I'm going to kill you. And then Schalke say, well, there's only 3 people down here, maybe we can force the 4v3. But time and time again, they try to force with the advantage. They can't kill OG fast enough, so OG are able to turn things right around, bring all 5 members to the bottom lane, and charge right on in for the victory.
And this is not a team, ladies and gentlemen, that you can kill quickly. Rek'Sai, he goes under the ground. Nuke Duck is Swain. He's unkillable. You've got Poppy, who's basically unkillable. And you have Seraph Ezreal, also incredibly hard to kill.
With the QSS, too.
Yeah, so absolutely brutal situation. They were caught between a rock and a hard place. They really didn't feel like there was the right choice in the end. But we've narrowed it down to Alfari, Cold, and Patrick in the Kia Player of the Game vote. Who on OG do you think deserved it? Let us know. At LO Esports on Twitter is the place. Ender, you were non-biased before. Are you biased now?
I'm so biased.
Who is it?
Cold. He crushed the early game. He knew exactly every single play that Schalke tried to make, and he shut him down.
All right. Well, regardless of how Cold played, we are, of course, going to have Mithy on PGL. And it looks like we are setting up with an interview with the man you claimed, the brilliant jungle pathing, the early ganks. To learn more about OG's win, let's check in with Cold and Alfari.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for joining me after this victory. How important is it for you to grab this one today, Alfari?
It's pretty important, but at the same time, it doesn't mean anything unless we win tomorrow. So we just need to take it still 1 game at a time.
I guess that you guys were pretty happy about Excel winning earlier today, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty fortunate. I didn't see it coming. It's pretty good.
Now, Cold, I want to bring back some memories from last year. Do you remember the last interview we had last year?
Was it a sad interview? I don't know.
It was a sad
Don't
interview.
remember 100%.
It was a sad interview. You were playing with UOL. You were eliminated from the LCS,
yeah.
And you actually told me that you didn't know if you were gonna come back ever playing because, well.
I mean, you don't know, obviously. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. And now you're like in contention for 2nd place with like the most improved roster in the LEC. What is your take on that and the progress you made?
I mean, there are 2 options. Either my teammates are just hard carrying me now, or last year was just a dip in the water, and then now I'm on top of the world. But we will see. I feel good on my team now with Origen, and I don't regret being on UOL at all. I think I learned a lot in that time as well. So I'm just happy to be where I am now. And I think regardless of who you are, you're destined to go where you're supposed to. So that's what I think.
Wise word from you, Alfari. Same goes to you. What is your take on the improvements you guys made over the splits?
I mean, it was just bound to happen. You know, we're all fine players, and it just takes some time to become good. Everyone had the right attitude, which I could see as soon as I started playing with them. in December that this was actually something that I wasn't used to, with everyone's mentalities and attitudes just being really open to criticism and giving it as well. So I knew that it was just a matter of time, and we still have a lot to improve on, but at least we're getting better.
But it's clicking already, and you're up to second place, at least contention for second place. I want to know, because we know that the synergy between jungle and top laner is really important. So what did you learn from Cold?
Nothing, to be honest. Like, this guy has not taught me anything, but maybe one day.
Cold, same to you. This is harsh, though.
Yeah. I mean,
What do you have to say to this?
The thing is, I could go back at him, but then again, like, I don't want to be too harsh on him. I'm just a bigger person, and I'll take it.
Nice.
And literally the bigger person, yes, I know. But
The bigger person, not in height, I guess. I'm sorry, I had to do it, and I'm small myself. So.
Yeah, I mean, no, I really enjoy playing with Barney. He reminds me a little bit of when I played with Wonder. They're both like these giants that just are stone cold killers and play their lane, and somehow they always get ahead. So they are very similar, and I really enjoy playing with Barney, even though he's not the guy that likes to share his feelings for how much he likes to play with me as well. But it is what it is.
Last one for you guys. You're both in contention for player of the game. Who should get it?
I guess jungle, because it's more OP. Like, there's really no competition.
So I would argue against that and say it has to be Barney this time, because this is the first time ever I've seen him play a tank. I don't remember ever seeing him play a tank, and he was willingly picking a tank. So like, this has to go to the next level. I think this is where we go to the next level as a team.
Being the bigger person, once again, you should take example on what he's saying. Thank you very much both for joining me. And to wrap up this day, let's send it over to PGL. Back to you, Shocks.